Okay, good. Okay. 3, 2, 1, start.
Social media as a platform for social interaction is huge. It's taken over face-to-face conversation as a substitute. One of those big social media players is Facebook. Facebook is a social media phenomenon in which a wide range of age groups are a part of. Anywhere from a 10-year-old to a 7-year-old can have Facebook and interact on it. What it means for young individuals who get to grow up with Facebook is that face-to-face interaction is less necessary than it was before. You can message someone instantly on Facebook and get a hold of them often quicker than you can in a face-to-face or seeing them out in public in a face-to-face interaction. For my generation, which is 20 to 30, it means that a lot of your friending is happening on Facebook versus in real life. So you can meet someone in a bar and you can get their name, and rather than them talking to you and getting to know you, they may friend you on Facebook and get to know you that way and message you with if they have interest or something. I know that Facebook has replaced a lot of like potential dating versus going out and meeting someone. You're just messaging them instead. It's a lot easier for rejection. It's a lot easier to have a conversation online versus a face-to-face conversation. I know in my life, I use Facebook to deal with conflict. I don't like to talk to people about issues I have. For example, at work, I had an issue with a girl and we had a conflict, and rather than talking about it and working out in person, we didn't talk for 2 days, and then I messaged her on Facebook and I asked her if everything was okay, if we could just like squash whatever we had. So that's an easier way for me to deal with conflict than to do it in person. And I think that can be said for a lot of individuals. I know personally my mom has Facebook and she uses that a lot versus meeting up with people. Instead of going to a restaurant and having dinner, she'll just message an old friend on Facebook and they'll talk and catch up that way versus going up and meeting. In some ways, it's closed a lot of gaps as far as communication goes. You can talk to someone that you haven't seen in 50 years or that lives in a different state, and it's a lot easier than going and meeting them. However, for conversations that you have on a daily basis, it's replaced a lot of those. So instead of meeting up for coffee, you may just message someone on Facebook. I think that it's definitely hindered how we have face-to-face conversations on messaging and stuff like that. You can't read social cues. There's no, I don't know, you don't get to see what people are feeling behind their words. Like on Messenger, you're not quite sure if they're upset or if they're happy, if they're excited, versus like an in-person conversation, you can kind of read those social cues, which I think is a huge part of conversation, and that's being replaced when social media is used.
Tiffany. 3, 2, 1, start.
So we ask ourselves, what season is our favorite throughout the years? Is summer really better than winter? I have mixed feelings about this because I grew up in a state that has true summers and has true winters. Summers for me meant beaches with family, beaches with friends, all-day beach trips. Sometimes we'd have bonfires. Everyone would get together in someone's backyard out on the back roads in the country and just have a ton of people around one huge fire. Vacations, we were able to vacation in the Outer Banks. We'd go to beaches. We'd go to camps. It's just a whole slew of different vacations you could have in the summertime in Virginia. Summer concerts were huge growing up, especially with the age group of late teens to 30s. there would be huge groups of people that would get together and carpool and caravan out to country concerts down at the beach. And it'd just be one huge party for everybody to enjoy. Some downfalls to the summer. In Virginia, the weather is very humid and hot. The humidity really just kind of puts a cramp in everything that is usually fun, because then you're out there, you're having fun, but you're getting sweaty, and that just makes it not fun. Sunburns are another big downfall. Yeah, you can keep applying your sunscreen, but at the beach, it just doesn't work all the time. As far as winters go in Virginia, we live not far from the mountains. It was about a 3-hour drive, so we were able to go on ski trips. Personally, I went on ski trips with friends, went on ski trips with my entire work office, family trips. We do skiing, snowboarding, snow tubing, which is the best. And snow's just a gorgeous piece of nature. Downfalls to winter, snow, because it's so cold and it creates ice on the roads, and that's not fun to drive in. And it's just very, very cold. And I'm not a huge fan of the cold. For me, based on these aspects, I'd say summer is better, although I'm not a huge fan of the hot heat. Ski trips, though, those are so much fun. So it's really hard to come up with which one is better than the other. They both have, it's a toss-up with the pros and cons, depending on what you really like to do. And I think everyone would have a different opinion. I don't think anyone could really say one was way better than the other.
Julia, ready? 3, 2, 1, start.
So I'm going to be talking about how my grandparents earned a living following their schooling. So my grandparents, their names are Geraldine and Ted. They are the greatest. They were married for 50 plus years. Together they had 5 children, 16 grandchildren. And within the 50 years that they had lived together, they had lived in 3 different homes. So as far as the livings that they had made, well, actually, first, let's talk about how they met. So they met in high school. My grandma actually dated his older brother first, then caught eye of my grandpa, and then made a life with him instead. Following high school, my grandpa joined the Army. He fought in World War II, and my grandma went to college. Following my grandpa's stint in the Army, he went to the school on the GI Bill, and he went to school for business. My grandpa worked at a bank, and my grandma worked as a receptionist at an ad agency. They both worked in downtown Chicago, so they had to take the Metrolink all the way down to the city, and then they got on the L and took the L into the city. With their careers, they built a beautiful life together. They didn't make a ton of money. They didn't have the most wild careers, but they had just enough. So with those 5 children, they had a 900 square feet home. They always tell stories about when they would eat dinner on the table. If they wanted to open up the fridge during dinner time, everybody would have to get up from the chairs to push in the chairs in to open up the fridge. It was that tiny of a home. But they made it work, and following that, they continued working at their jobs, my grandpa at the bank and my grandma at the ad agency. and they were able to buy a bigger home near Lake Michigan in Chicago area. So within that, their careers kind of maintained. They didn't really extend their careers further than that, but I think that they both enjoyed it. My grandma kind of describes her time with the ad agency, kind of classic to the show Mad Men, with the men smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey all day, and seeing all the cool advertisements that they would do for companies like Coca-Cola, and different cigarette companies were a big clientele back then. So it was very interesting to hear about those experiences, but very interesting to also see what a beautiful life they made with such a simple living.
Okay. So ladies, I think you all did very well. And we're just going to take a minute to go over the errors that we saw. Starting with Laura. Very interesting topic. Loved the way you covered the topics and the different things you pointed out. The errors that I identified were the pause fills, the ahs, which is defined as the ums or the ahs, and yours were the ahs, that occurred between words. For example, Facebook is one way of communicating. Another example would be clearing the throat, okay? So we're gonna choose another topic, and I will raise my hand, and so will you, each time you find yourself saying an ah.
Okay.
Okay? Are you ready?
Yeah, what's my topic?
Okay. What did people do before there was social media to build and maintain networks?
Okay. Are we ready?
Three, two, one, start.
Before social media, I think that people definitely engaged in more conversations. They met up more. They had more time to talk and spend time together. I think that people probably wrote more letters, and I think they wrote more letters and spent more time getting to know each other, and they did more activities versus than just being on the computer all the time. I think they probably engaged in leisure activities such as like games and golf, picnics, things like that we don't really think about doing anymore. I think social media has replaced a lot of those things. People would rather message online than go and meet up with someone. It's more effort and it's more time, and people are so hectic with their lives these days. But I think it's really important that we take that time and get to know each other outside of a media realm. Like I said, there's so many other things to do besides message. And when you have those face-to-face conversations and do different things, it gives you an opportunity to read those social cues and have intimate moments that being online prevents. doing things such as golfing or teaching a new activity to each other is really, it builds unification between the two of you. Before social media, I think there was a lot more of that happening. People would, I think, had more intimate relationships than they do now versus just having conversations online. It's easy to have a conversation online versus really getting to know someone outside of that. I know.
Okay. Thank you. Good effort.
Thank you.
So we'll do some more rehearsals, and then we'll have another go at it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany, you're next. So Tiffany, really interesting topic about summers and winters in Virginia, and you had just a few fill pauses as well. And so this time we're going to have you deliver on another topic, and each time you have I'll raise my hand, and so will you, to cue us. And we'll stop at if I get to 5 errors.
Okay.
Okay. So your topic, I'm pulling from a hat. Oh. You have a choice of 2. Where would I visit if I went to Italy? Would you like another? Yes. I have, what did Grandma and Grandpa do for fun and recreation 50 years ago?
Okay.
Okay. Three, 2, 1, start.
So my grandparents 50 years ago, they were in their mid to late 20s. They were high school graduates, madly in love, newlyweds. My grandfather had come home from the Army, married my grandmother, and then went back out to the Vietnam War. While they were still in their 20s, they had 2 children, my mom and my uncle. And a lot of their fun activities revolved around their children, of course, and their families. With the families, they'd usually spend the weekends at the VFW with other families, their friends, just a whole slew of people, having fun, drinking, dancing, just talking, sharing stories. Another way they got together, I think drinking seemed to be a big thing in those days, especially with my family being German and Polish. There was a lot of drinking going on. So the get-togethers that they had in basements, they also, it was a lot more drinking and dancing with other friends, other families. Sometimes they had a bunch of kids over. Sometimes it was just the adults, and the kids would go to a babysitter or have someone come over to the house and babysit the kids upstairs so they weren't in the basement. They did a lot of traveling. My grandparents have shown me a lot of pictures of the family in Niagara Falls, Disneyland, I don't even know, Mount Rushmore, just everywhere throughout the United States, any place that you would want to go and visit with your family. My grandparents were able to provide their children with that experience, which I think is amazing. The traveling VFW with other friends and families, gatherings and basements. Another big thing that my family did, my grandparents did, was they'd go to their parents' house, especially during Christmas time. This was a big thing. They'd get up, start their day at 6 a.m. They'd go to one family member's house and have breakfast. Then they'd go to the next one and have afternoon snack. And it just progressed like that throughout the day until almost midnight, when you at the end of the day, they'd just go home and crash. And that's the gist of my grandparents' fun. Family, friends, drinking, dancing, especially to polka music. That was really big for my family.
Thank you. Julia, very interesting to hear about your grandparents. Sounded like they had a wonderful life and left you with a rich heritage. I noted in your delivery that you mainly had fill pauses, and I found which is the and the ah. Mm-hmm. And I noted one evidence of a like. Well, it was so instead of like. So you started with, for instance, started with the so out at a point where it was not syntactically correct.
Okay.
For example, saying, so it's like going to the movies. Okay, so we're going to try and with another topic. And each time I hear one of those fill pauses, or if you have a so or a like, I'll raise my hand and invite you to do the same. Okay. And when you get to 5, we will stop. Okay. Okay. Otherwise, you go for 3 minutes and I'll give the signal and then you'll stop at 4. Okay. Okay. So your topic wow. Why should everyone visit Disney World?
Okay.
Are you okay with that one?
Can I hear the second option?
Okay. How to plan the best date night? Third option?
I will do best date night.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, start.
So how to plan the best date night. I think the first thing that you should do when planning the best date night is to consider both individuals in the relationship. Some individuals may enjoy going to nice restaurants, nice dinners. Some people may not value spending money on a meal and would rather do something more affordable, such as visiting a local museum or going to a park and having a picnic. So I think the first thing to do to plan a date night is to consider the interests of the individual. I think following that, the best thing to do is to use resources such as the internet or local magazines or even coworkers, friends, to get some ideas of what's around in the area. I have used the internet quite often my husband and I move around a lot. So when we move to new areas, we are unaware of what resources are out there for date nights. So we look online and we find different ideas such as restaurants or museums. One date night or date day thing that we like to do a lot is going to festivals such as fall festivals, pumpkin festivals, those types of things. We also like to explore different restaurants. That's something that we like to do. So we also utilize the internet again and read lots of reviews. So a good way to plan accordingly for a date night is to read the reviews online, see if people also enjoy the local spots, and get a sense of what you're kind of getting into. Another fun thing to do for a date night is to kind of not plan at all, to kind of just go with the flow and see what happens. A lot of times if we don't know what to do, if there's nothing as far as an event going on, we kind of just like to stumble around the downtown area or the main area in town and just see what happens, walking into various shops, antique stores, or
Okay.
yes, or different local breweries, trying different things like that. Another fun date night is to get multiple couples together. I think that is always fun to socialize not only with your partner, but with other people. I know living with my partner, with my husband, we get a lot of time together already. So kind of incorporating others within our date night is really fun. So a good way to plan ahead for that is to coordinate times with friends or family that may be available. But those are all suggestions for planning a date night.
Thank you. Okay, so we have completed our baseline and we have completed our first round of interventions. And the next time we meet, we will have another go at it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you, ladies.